Hello, welcome, and thank you for joining us on our road to 1,000,000 signatures. It's insane how fast things have been moving. But we've got up to 987,619 now. Well, we are now 988,868. Thank you again for all of your support. So we're currently at 988,120. $988,223. Thank you everybody for your support. Thought it might be worth recording this moment in case it's got some historical context. You never know, maybe one day it'll be a point in time of history. $988,321. It's hard to think if we look back at the history, just for anybody who's not aware or might not have seen this, there's no reason why you should have. So I started this petition, it says 3 years ago, but overall, from my recollection, it was actually in 2020, so, but you can see 10 signatures, 25, 50, 100, 500, did try to promote it a fair bit, and to be fair, some people would count a few hundred as some decent traction. I did thank everybody who signed it so far when we got to 500 signatures. Then you can see from 3 years ago, 1,000 signatures were reached, and it kind of plateaued from there on in. There was no matter how frustrated I was about the situation, there didn't seem any way to actually get any more traction for it. I tried sharing to it, I spoke to people about it, because the bit that really got me was when I read that actually they were saying that there's no bugs in Horizon. Well, from someone who's developed enterprise grade software, there's not been a piece of enterprise grade software that's released without bugs. Absolutely not. Currently on 988,576. 988,576. If you know anybody who hasn't signed already, then please do throw it out to them, share it. I know so many of you already have, thanks to Jeff G, who signed a few seconds ago, Aileen K, Nick B. Support is much appreciated. I really, really do appreciate it, and I'm humbled by all the support, all your messages that you've sent. It has been fantastic to read. Absolutely fantastic indeed. So we're on the countdown to 1 million. 1 million seemed to be the agreed number where we said, most people said, actually, that seems like a good point to submit the petition, an interim submission of the petition, because one thing I was keen to do is not cut off people who actually want to join us with this. And I'm sure, although I could have never dreamed it before, that once we get to 1 million, signatures will keep on being added. And then if there is some pushback from the Forfeiture Committee, it allows me to go back to them with ever increasing numbers to show them the public mood on this, to show them that actually, this isn't going away. This needs sorting. So as I've mentioned in another video about an hour ago, where I'm calling for action from the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition, I think there's been too many false promises. There's been too many things where it's been kicked down the road. I mean, we're talking, what is it now? 25 years since Horizon has been implemented in the first post office. So, I mean, it'd be a nice fitting tribute if, this year was the year that all this gets sorted for the sub-postmasters and their families, as much as something like this can be sorted. Now up to 989,025, so got about 11,000 signatures to go. Hello to everybody that's joined us. Really appreciate your support. Thought it'd be interesting for us to share this moment in history together. 989,120. Thank you to Valel, Anthony S, and Jeanette, who've signed in the past few seconds. It's absolutely amazing. It's been really heartwarming to read all the messages that have been sent as well today, following the video about how to contact your MP, that so many people have been writing to their MPs about this issue. So hopefully, when they go back to their offices tomorrow, they, have quite a bit of work to do replying to these letters that you've written to them. And I hope, as you have had the courage and dignity to write to them individually, that they won't just copy and paste a template to you, and they will actually provide a proper personalised response that it does deserve. You are their constituents, and at the end of the day, that's, their constituency job to make sure this happens. So fingers crossed, and do let me know if you want, whenever you receive a reply. I'm happy to start compiling them so we can see what different members of Parliament are saying in terms of the response to the post office scandal, and more importantly, how they intend to fix this, and fix this in a reasonable time frame, which doesn't take, well, frankly, 2.5 decades to implement. Now to 989,413 people. Thank you to Penny, thank you to Joanne, thank you to Emma, who have signed in the last few seconds. absolutely appreciate your support on this. And it's well worth noting that the number, as I've said in previous videos, of people affected has gone up over recent years. So the 555 who were part of the 2019 case, which was won, those were people who took part in the case, but even at the time there were more people affected. The 734, I think, is the latest number that I've seen. Interestingly, when I was looking on the post office website earlier on today, they did suggest there was 700 active cases. So I guess there's a potential that there are still people to bring the case, or maybe the post office are a bit confused on the numbers, which seems to be a bit of a theme when we consider all the confusion on the numbers regarding Horizon. From a software development perspective, I've got no internal knowledge of the post office or Fujitsu, but from a software development point of view, I have worked in designing and creating enterprise software over the past decade, and the first thing that did catch my attention is this Horizon has no bugs statement. That's just factually not true. You will not find a software developer worth their salt in this country who says that there has ever been an enterprise grade piece of software such as Horizon released and there's no bugs. Humans make software, humans make mistakes, software has mistakes in them. Thanks, George, for your message. So George just said justice for Paula and justice for the Royal Mail. Throw them in prison, everyone who knows about this, and strip them of their assets and titles. And I think that it kind of linked into what I was saying about kind of Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak's response to this recently. It almost seems like they're suggesting like they are completely powerless in all this, and I just can't accept that. They are, after all, well, Rishi Sunak is in charge of the country, and presumably is in charge of the country because he believes he can change things, and presumably Keir Starmer is running for Prime Minister in the forthcoming general election because he also believes he can change the country. So it makes no sense to me that they seem to imply, not explicitly state, but seem to imply that this is kind of totally out of their hands. I get there's processes, there's certain things, that's why we're following them, that's why this is going to be sent to Sir Chris Wormwell, the chair of the Forfeiture Committee, because they are the people that deal with honours. But of course, it seems crazy that the government can't have an opinion or can't express an opinion when they have very both clearly stated that this has been a horrendous miscarriage of justice. Up to 989,979 signatures now. Thank you to everyone for the support. Francesca, Emma, Tira, thank you very much for signing that in the past few seconds. It is absolutely amazing to see the power of people coming together. Over time, I have got an interest in politics, in campaigning, on important issues that I think affect the community, because I think it's really important, actually, even though sometimes it can be really frustrating, and there's plenty of times where I've tried to do campaigns on local healthcare, cost of living, issues, health, access to GPs, waiting times, and it is extremely hard to get traction on a lot of these things. But it doesn't make me any less determined to do the right thing. Where these kind of injustices are seen, I just really want to do my bit as a member of society to uphold the British values, of justice, of the rule of law, of accountability. And it absolutely needs to keep going. Just reading the last couple of comments. Hi, 1 million easy shows the disgust Brits have for this whole sorry saga, and I absolutely think that is the case. Absolutely. The fact that it hasn't got as much airtime as I think, this issue obviously deserves over the years is a travesty, really, and that is something that the mainstream media have to answer to, because it's very clear from reading a lot of the documentation from the Justice for Subpostmasters Alliance that it's not that they've not been saying anything. It's not that they've not been saying anything. They've been telling people. They've been telling people in government. They've been speaking to the media. I mean, if we look back to the Computer Weekly article, I want to get this right. I want to say 2009 that was published. Well, that's 15 years ago. That's 15 years ago now. Nobody can say in government or the post office that they weren't aware, particularly as we've seen through the dramatisation, which was absolutely fantastic, by the way. Hats off to the actors, and most importantly, hats off to the people who allowed the story to be shared. You know, their bravery, courage and commitment at any time would be absolutely astounding. But to go through the horrendous ordeal they have, and do that, and try to rebuild some kind of a life away from post office, where they sunk in life savings into buying these properties, which then were no good to them. You struggled to sell them on. They no longer had a job. They got a few months' notice. Were blamed for these things. You know, made out to be criminals. It's all. I've just got so much admiration for this group of people, more so than I think I've ever had for anyone ever before in my life. 990,586 now. Let's push this over the edge for them. Let's get it to 1 million, and then we can get this off to the committee. Star 99, keep it going. You may get to 2 million. Seriously. Well, do you know what? I hope so, because one of the things that I think is I'm determined to do now is clearly one of the highlights, one of the standout points of this story that has been so clearly shown is when people have been made aware and it's got a little bit difficult, it's either not got into the news cycle or it's fallen out of the news cycle. Now, with it being a general election year this year, you can guarantee that maybe some of this non-committal talk from some of our most senior politicians about, you know, we need to let the process go on is maybe a hope that this will drop out of the news cycle. And I'm determined that won't happen for these people, because this is the right thing to do. They deserve to be heard. They deserve to be seen. They deserve justice. I mean, the scene in Mr. Bates versus the Post Office, and I know it's just a drama, but obviously it's based on a true story. The scene where, you know, the sub-postmaster called Martin is in his car and clearly there's something wrong and gets out and walks in front of a bus. That scene is going to be etched into my brain till the day I die, I think. What a horrendous thing for himself and his family to go through. It's heartbreaking. Nicola, less than 10,000 to go. Numbers keep rocketing tonight. Yeah, well, I'm wanting to kind of push this over. One of the initial things before we kind of coalesced on the number was I wanted to try and get this in front of the Forfeiture Committee so it lands on their desk first thing, well, before they get in first thing Monday morning. So I've been determined to keep pushing so that we can meet that target now, so that I can get it to them, and then obviously keep you updated on any progress. We're now at 990,930. Thank you to everyone that signed. Thank you, Jade, for signing. I've shared this to all my contacts. Yes, keep the numbers going beyond 1 million. Absolutely, that is the plan. So to capitalise on, obviously, the additional attention that has been brought to this very worthy cause, I feel it's very important that we get this petition in front of the right people. But I also feel it's really important that we show the true extent of feeling from the public at large. And I think it's obvious these numbers are going to keep on growing beyond 1 million, and that will put the campaign in a much stronger group, particularly if there's any pushback, particularly if there's any delays, to keep on saying, well, since last time we spoke, this is now how many people are taking, want this to be solved for the sub-postmasters. We're now up to 991,122. Thank you, Joe. That's great. It's a shame it's taken a documentary 20 years later to get to the PM to do something. I heard the BBC podcast about this during lockdown. Well done to the ITV for the documentary. I've got to say, absolutely well done to ITV for the documentary. The fantastic actors in it and the way they portrayed it. I think was perfect. And also, thank you wholeheartedly and primarily to the sub-postmasters and the families who allowed their vital stories to be told. Florence, corruption of all kinds needs to be exposed, and you're helping. Well done. I try to live my life by the premise of doing the right thing, and for me that goes beyond merely just doing the right thing myself. I feel like it is important, that it's so important actually, that if you do see an injustice, even if you don't think you have a profile, even if you can't just ring up the news and get on there straight away, or at all, to be fair, I've not been able to get on a news broadcast ever for anything, but I have skills, I have IT skills, I have some experience of campaigning, so therefore, however I can use those skills, I'm more than happy to do that, particularly for such a worthy cause. Star 99, I was a sub-postmaster between 1999 and 2005. I wish I could come on live and give some insights. Do you know what? Actually, I wish we could sort that out. There has been a couple of sub-postmasters who've contacted me who've expressed an interest on being given a platform. Admittedly, I know my platform is not that large, but I am more than happy to give that platform to anybody who wants to, and they've wanted to come on and share their own individual stories, because I would imagine, obviously, as good as the drama is, we are only scratching the surface. There are over 700 people impacted by this, and clearly in 4 hours of drama they cannot cover all these stories. So that is an open invitation to anybody who has been affected in any way or involved in this scandal to speak to me, to keep to let the public know their story and keep this going, and so that nobody is forgotten and nobody is left behind. Nicola, there are 4 known post office Horizon-related suicides, probably more, and that does not include attempted suicides. Absolutely, Nicola. I mean, we know mental health has come to the forefront across society as being a major problem over the past few years. And like I say, these 4 suicides are all tragedies. And at this moment, I would also like to mention the 18 people who survived long enough to be part of, or I believe part of, Justice for the Sub-Postmasters Alliance, but actually didn't live to see the day when the convictions were overturned, or the judgment that was given against the post office. So they died never knowing that actually they hadn't done anything wrong. And I cannot imagine the pain. I just can't imagine it. Maria, I'm sharing this all over the place. Absolutely disgusting. She is a person of the church. That is true. That is true. And obviously, after she left, as far as I am aware now, because I know she did go on to work for the NHS as a CEO after she left the post office, not long after she got her CBE in 2019. She was also working as a vicar. And I do believe she isn't in either of those roles now. Happy for someone to update me or correct me on that. Jack, the rise of this petition has been amazing. This has clearly spoken to a lot of people, and I really hope it makes a difference. I do, and I'm determined for this to make a difference. And do you know what? It's not. I wish I had the power to just summon news media outlets, to get things published, to get an audience in Parliament, to be on Question Time, to be on Politics Daily. Okay. Because I want to scream about this from the rooftop, seeing this injustice and seeing the way it has been mishandled, to put it politely, over 25 years. I mean, they weren't joking when they're calling this the greatest miscarriage in the history of the country, were they? Star 99, I lost £800 one week. It made no sense. I mean, and this is the bit that makes no sense to me. And when I first read about this story in 2020, through my interest in technology, so that's how I first got to the story, through the Horizon angle, that's insanity. And why was no one asking at the post office or in government, because from the stories that I've heard from some sub-postmasters that have talked and shared their experiences, they'd ran post offices for years with no problems. There was no question about their character. They were staples of the community. They upheld, the very same British values, okay, that we love. And all of a sudden, they're branded criminals. Now, literally, surely they could put two and two together and say, well, the thing that changed was the Horizon system. These losses weren't happening before then. I mean, I say this as an IT professional. Never, ever, ever blindly trust a computer system. Never. Literally, computers don't make mistakes. That could be a controversial statement. However, humans make mistakes. Computers do what they're programmed to do, but because humans program computers, computer software is not always right. Emma, well done for you for creating this petition. Really well done. It's been amazing. Thank you very much, Emma. We're now up to 992,151. Thank you for all the support. Michaela B, Karen A, Frank B, thank you as the most recent signatories. It's disgraceful, signed a few days ago. Thank you. Please don't let Adam Crozier off the hook. He is just as capable as Vennells. And I think, Joe, what this is, to be fair, is a point that has come up more and more over recent days. Certainly, this cannot be the end. The end has to be when the people affected say they feel that justice has been served, and that means holding all people to account. It should start, I think it's a start if they strip Paula Vennells of a CBE, which she's given for services to the post office. Well, realistically, the CBE should be being handed out to the people who've actually served the post office well until they were disgracefully gotten rid of and branded criminals. They are deserving of an honour. Surely it's about time that we actually start giving honours to people who deserve it, who have contributed to human life, not just because of who they know. There's nothing worse in life than being accused of something you haven't done. I honestly can't imagine. I think you're totally right. Programme was good, but missed the predecessors to Paula, who in many ways were worse. God knows how she got a CBE or golden handshake. This was all known. A million makes the point. Well done. Thank you, Joe. I mean, I have no, like I said before, I have no internal knowledge of the post office. Paula Vennells, I mean, somebody might know the month offhand. I do believe Paula Vennells stepped down as CEO of the post office in 2019, and that happened to be the same year that she was announced in the New Year's honours. Well done for starting this petition. Thank you. Please also sign. I have such admiration for you all, sub-postmasters who went through this nightmare. All of you fighting and have been for 25 years. I urge anyone else affected to hold your heads high and come forward. Absolutely, Tracy. Wholeheartedly agree with that. It's time that actually everybody, known or unknown at this moment, and I cannot believe, well, I can believe the government isn't aware of some people they are, but they should be aware of who they are. They should have their own records to know who they've fired and who they've accused of these terrible things incorrectly, and they should proactively seek to compensate them if anybody isn't currently involved. Adam Crozier was a former ITV exec. It's only a slight criticism that they made no mention of his role. He's getting a free ride. Maybe not for much longer. This is only the start of this campaign, I feel, and I'm determined for all these people that have suffered to keep this in the news media. And the only way that I can do that is with the support of everyone and members of the public like you, watching the video updates, sharing the video updates, writing to your MPs, joining the live now. All those things are all things that contribute to saying enough is enough. We won't accept this anymore. There is no longer 736 people who are asking for this. It's now 1 million people asking for this, 2 million, 5 million, 10 million. Mark, hopefully this sets a new standard for any other issues that come to light in future. I sincerely hope so. I sincerely hope there is some permanent change, not only for the post office, not only justice for the postmasters, but there is something that stops such a terrible miscarriage of justice ever happening again. Greg, in my opinion, the greatest barrier to exposing just what happened is the fear of criminal prosecution. I mean, no doubt that the conduct of many post office and Fujitsu employees from top to bottom, and I think that is the problem. We know there's legislation for whistleblowers, but we actually know people are afraid. I mean, of course, and that's understandable. I mean, I can understand that. I have thought to myself on, numerous times where I've campaigned for things, I've thought, this is right, this is morally just. I mean, of course it's legal. We've got freedom of expression, freedom of speech. But I have to say, in the past, I've thought, will I be penalised? Could you be targeted for being seen to be stood by somebody or by somebody's campaign? But then the overriding thing, which I always remember, is there's no excuse for not standing up for something that is just. To stand up to that injustice, to help people when they need your help. Okay, there is times in life where everybody needs some help from somebody. And at times where they are suffering, they are least able to do that themselves. And with things like this, it requires a massive, massive groundswell of support to finally get things moving in the right direction. I mean, the amount of work that these people have done over 25 years to highlight this issue, to try and solve it, is immense. And I hope in some small way that we can continue to kind of send another wave of support behind them to make this truly an issue that cannot be ignored. 100% agree. I do IT support myself, so know that IT systems are only as good as the programmer, and no doubt it was rolled out before it was ready because of pressure and cost and time. And that's always the case, I would say, Joe, from my experience of software projects. So there is something, and it's not been discussed much, so I can't comment conclusively what has happened here with Horizon around the late 90s in terms of the post office. But from my experience of software development, knowing software development projects, there is something called acceptance testing, which is the last phase before final release to the client. So I would imagine, in line with other enterprise projects that I've worked on for companies the size of Post Office, as well as smaller companies, that will have taken place. One of the problems with acceptance testing tends to be the people who are doing the acceptance testing are normally quite senior and not actually the users of the system, and how rigorous that testing is really up to the receiving organisation, to the customer. And unfortunately, obviously, software companies want to get paid, and they don't tend to get the final payment, which can be up to 50% of the entire project before they have actually, before the software has been accepted. So there is some pressure from companies as well on their customers to accept the software. And it sounds like something horrendous has gone wrong here with that stage. Even after that stage, though, it's typical for it to be accepted, and there's issues and you can fix them. I don't know what's happened with that. I mean, what would happen normally is if the customers accepted it, normally they would have to pay then for the contractor or the software consultancy to come back in and fix the issues. Now, whether that has happened, I don't know whether that's been released. But overall, I mean, it's just a shocking failure, certainly not to ask questions, I feel, about this happening. I mean, surely that is criminal level incompetence. George, well done for all your hard work. Keep up the pressure. We need to find out what advice the civil service gave to ministers. Why didn't David, Margot, James do more? We need to know the truth. Absolutely. And I think this, not only the series, but the and the subpostmasters speaking out on TV in recent days, which has been heartbreaking and tear-jerking to listen to. This is the opportunity now for people to come out and say, actually, I didn't say anything at the time. That's not right, but I'm here to try to fix this the best way I can now, which is being transparent, open, and honest now. Robert has importantly pointed out software engineers, testers are only human as well and so make mistakes. Absolutely, bugs will always get through into massive systems. The one thing I always used to tell junior developers that I was training is the only software that has ever been released without bugs, okay, is software such as the Hello World program that developers typically code as their first program. And that's because it literally prints out the words Hello World. It's a one-line program. Okay, apart from that, software's complex, particularly on this scale. It was criminal, says Greg. However, I believe the best interest of those sub-postmaster effects would be served by an amnesty and even an incentive to blow the whistle. This whole debacle could not have been... it didn't have to happen. And I think that's one of the things which compounds the issue. It didn't have to happen. Went out to 993,440 people. Thank you for your continued support. Paula, Steve and Danielle, thank you for signing in the last few seconds. What hopes has an individual got for any sort of justice or trust of any kind in the UK legal system when this amount of people as a collective are still waiting after 25 years for justice? Well said. The words that the sub-postmaster called Lee was said in the programme, and I'm imagining this was a quote, but it's all right, we can trust in the British justice system, before he was hauled in front of the court and not only had to pay back the £26,000 that he hadn't stolen, but the £300,000 in cost for the post office. Imagine 1 in 60 people in the UK not liking you very much. Yeah, I guess the pressure's building here. Russ, you're right, and hopefully it continues past 1 in 60 as well. Thanks for your message. Tom, I'm puzzled by how corporate groupthink seems to make people protect the institution over what is morally and ethically right. Can also say this happened in the BBC with Savile. I mean, this is the issue. They are beholden to the people that pay them, and obviously that has led, I think, to the quite striking comment, which I believe, again, is an actual quote from the Select Committee. It's been a while since I've watched the Select Committee appearance of Paula Vennells, but actually I believe when she was asked about what is this all about, and she said the reputation of the post office, I mean, it's shocking. It's shocking. And that is a matter of public record that was said. Well, no. It's about people. It's about people. It's always been about people. And, I mean, I can't believe... I mean, I would like to think if she was commenting on it now, that would be her answer, particularly now she's left the post office, but I guess we would have to wait and see. I'm not aware of any comment that she's made recently on this. Unbelievable that this woman has still not done a decent thing and given up her ill-gotten CBE, and for those that nominated her, they should also be brought to book. That is possible. I do believe it is perfectly possible. I'm not an expert in the honour system, but I do believe I'm becoming an increasingly expert the more I've delved into this. But I do believe she could give back her honour. One of the things that I don't like is, from listening to politicians, it does actually seem, to me at least, some of them are skirting the issue by saying, well, I think she should hand it back. Yeah, but the answer that the public, I think, want to hear from you in that is, if she doesn't hand it back, are you willing to back calls to have it taken off her? Because that, to me, seems like a typical politician's answer, a cop-out. Well, I think she should hand it back. Right, but what happens if she doesn't? She's not handed it back over the past 5 years. There is nothing new in this drama that she surely wasn't aware of during her tenure in the post office. So if she wouldn't give it back in 2019 or refuse it in 2019, why would she give it back now? I'm wondering if this will be the start of the end for the post office. I have 3 friends who've closed their post office bank accounts of the week. That must be happening all over. Well, trust in the post office is at an all-time low. I mean, again, another quote from the drama, from when the judge said, on the post office website, that it said they're one of the most trusted brands in Britain. But that, it's likely that the claimants in this case would beg to differ and, kind of be offended by that prospect. I can't remember the exact words, but he's right. This does rock confidence. I mean, I'm a strong believer in public services, and I do believe, that we deserve to have a, publicly owned post office. But, it needs regulation and accountability. And, you know, many people expected that we had that. And I think one of the problems here is the government has ministers who are paid to monitor these things. They appoint CEOs to do these jobs. This is literally the job they're paid for. You know, the public pays a fortune, you know, 3 times, well, for a minister, 6, 7 times the average salary for them to do this job with their MP and ministerial pay added together. You know, I think as the public, we need to not be afraid of holding them to account for doing the jobs that they are appointed to as ministers and elected to by constituents. Absolutely. Mike, the response to this position is absolutely tremendous. The whole sorry saga has made my blood boil. The arrogance, the ruthlessness, the callous indifference, the determination to protect the brand. I totally agree. Reading several reviews from critics, they were almost like, this is hard to believe. This is like, you know, a fictional drama you would see. And if we didn't know it was true, you know, it is literally that staggering. Nicola, I remember Hello World, Commodore 64 and BBC Basic. Yeah, interesting side fact. BBC Basic was the first computer I ever got my hands on. So my interest in technology started all that time ago. Primary school had a BBC Basic. It was those were the days. Mind you, we didn't have YouTube and petition sites then, so maybe I'm thankful for all the technology that we have now that will hopefully help us. Hopefully help us help the subpostmasters secure the justice that they deserve. I would like to see the Fujitsu CEO in the dock to explain their lack of morals too. Post office needs to pay back the money they effectively stole from people. Absolutely, Joe. And I believe with the Horizon inquiry, which has been ongoing for, well, is it in its 4th year now? And I think it started in 2020. But it was put on a statutory footing in 2021. My understanding from the inquiry being put on the statutory footing is that they can actually indeed compel witnesses. They don't have to ask nicely and can be rejected. They can compel witnesses to give testimony. So I believe, you know, there isn't any reason why they can't summon anyone to that inquiry to give evidence. I'm not aware whether the Fujitsu CEO has already gone in front of the Horizon inquiry. I can't remember reading anything. Don't know whether anyone else knows. Tracy, still constant cover-ups at government level. It's absolutely disgusting. Our whole government and justice system needs an overhaul. Absolutely. And the thing is, in a democracy, we elect the government and we shouldn't be afraid to hold them to account for their actions, or in this case, inactions, or, well, I should say, in this case, both. Because it's quite clear that there has been action and inaction of epic proportions at all levels of government, by the sounds of it, and clearly at the post office. Nicholas, she should have it taken off her. Maximum humiliation, letting her hand it back is letting her off lightly. Absolutely, I think there does need to be, and this is why I think it's a bit of a cop-out from some of the politicians who are saying, and I think probably crossing the fingers, that she just hands it back. I think it's a bit of a cop-out to say, oh, just let her hand it back and then this can all go away. Well, actually, that's not satisfactory enough, I don't think. And I don't think the people who are signing the petition feel this is satisfactory. I don't think you feel this is satisfactory. Which we're now up to 994,452. Thank you to Karen, Denise and Alfred who have signed it recently. And Prime Minister's MPs talk now about doing something about this. Interestingly, though, they're still talking. There's not much action, is there? But why on earth was it not done years ago? Well, I didn't know there was a slip by Rishi Sunak today, but he seemed to imply that there's some awareness of issues in Horizon all the way back to 1999. So when it was first implemented. Should be an inquiry into why the government have sat on this and left people in limbo. Absolutely. Most politicians' answers so far have not been good enough. Rishi Sunak seems to be a decent, respectable man, but he'll lose all respect if he doesn't act on this very fast. Exactly, and I feel like this is such an important issue. The fact that there has been nothing said since Thursday, I believe, by Rishi Sunak, someone please correct me if I'm wrong, just shows that he's still not actually taking accountability for enough of this, and maybe that's because still more pressure needs to come to bear. I mean, even though he appeared on Sunday with Laura this morning, it only got a couple of minutes of questions from him. And I'm not saying the other issues he was questioned about weren't important. Absolutely they were. But I think they are still downplaying it and putting it on the back burner a bit too much. Fujitsu prosecution support is in front of the inquiry 16th of January to the 19th of January, right? So that will be really interesting because really people from Fujitsu obviously have questions to answer, and it seems like there's a lot that actually hasn't come out yet. David, I support the petition, but more importantly, I want justice along with the money paid back to the poor subpostmasters who have put their own funds in the compensation for all they've had to endure. Absolutely, David, and this has been my point from the beginning. What the government is calling compensation at the moment, I don't agree that it's compensation. If it goes to the legal cost, which they've had to fight, which they never should have had to, then it's not compensation. That's reimbursement of expenses. If it's money that was like callously booked to post office profits, having been put in a ring-fenced account apparently for a couple of years to see where the cards fall, then when they get that money back, that isn't compensation. That's reimbursement. The 8%, or I think it's 8% statutory interest that, HMRC would charge you on an outstanding debt. All that being added on to all this money for all that time paid back to them, again, that's not compensation. That's repayment of damages already done. The compensation should be on top of this. Pete, today's news about the current Justice Secretary becoming involved is welcome, but how many other holders of that office sat on their hands in the face of such a clear miscarriage of justice? Absolutely. Everybody seems to be saying this is such a clear miscarriage of justice. I would really like them to answer at what point it struck them that there was a clear miscarriage of justice happening, or the point they first had a suspicion that actually something was wrong at the post office. I'm not so sure people are being very clear in former people who've been part of the post office and government, or the people currently in place. I'm not sure anyone's been clear about when they first became aware from this. Please refresh my screen. Sorry, I'm doing a lot of chatting. 994,947 apologies. There may be some slight delay. I do believe, and it is outside of my control, that YouTube puts a slight delay on live streams for the purposes of protecting the integrity of the platform. But it is up to 994,957. I am keeping my eyes on it. Thank you for all the support. Thank you to Peter, Kathleen and Jill who've signed it recently. We're closing down on the last 5,000 now. I absolutely cannot express how surprised, shocked, happy that these subpostmasters may finally start to get some of the justice that they deserve. And I think it's really important that we keep this in the media coverage now. I mean, it's getting a few minutes on programmes. I guess if we count the interview with people affected by the scandal on Laura Kay today, then we've got like 12 minutes. But I think it's really important we don't just let this drop off the radar now so it can be brushed under the carpet for another 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years. I totally agree with Tracy. Power is not a license to do as you please. These institutions need proper regulation and complaint systems to make people accountable. Absolutely. Absolutely. Who was in charge of the Horizon helpline? Who was in charge of saying this isn't sound right? Whose job was it to monitor it? I mean, clearly they were just given a script, although I think it's implied from several sources that they claim there was never a script. But the fact that everybody's heard the same lines, including the famous "you're the only one," suggests that there was some kind of script that was being used on that helpline. And the fact that they were trying to isolate people, it just beggars belief. If there's no problems, why would you want to hide the fact that there are problems? Well, because it outs you as actually having problems with the system, and you don't want to admit that a massive project has gone south. But that can be fixed. Software can be fixed. The lives of the 4 people who committed suicide and the 18 others who died before the case concluded, the recent case concluded, can't come back to life. That can't be fixed. Only 5,000 to go. Absolutely. We'll do another refresh. We're at 995,250 signatures now. Thank you for your support. Thank you, Charles, Anna, and Paolo, who've signed recently. Guardian just published an article claiming that 2 postmasters were prosecuted in 95-96 in trials of the Horizon system. Not read it in detail. That would be interesting. I mean, as far as I'm aware, and I could be wrong on this, so I'm willing to be corrected. I didn't think Horizon was installed in any post office until 1999. Don't know whether anyone else knows whether that's correct. It's always the little people against those with power and money. Thalidomide, haemophilia, wrong prosecution that leads to prison. This one must be won ASAP. Absolutely. And hopefully we lead to a sea change. I mean, I guess this is the part where I'm doing my Mr. World speech for, world peace. But, however hard something is, it doesn't mean that it's not worth asking for. But I would hope this leads to some kind of change in standards and morality and acceptability in public life and what it means to be a public servant again. Bring some prestige and some honour back to these systems that have so terribly failed these people. Just watched the whole ITV series at once. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd recommend anybody who hasn't seen it to watch it. It's such compelling viewing from beginning to end, something that I will never, ever forget. Just to add to the injustice, people who've had compensation are facing tax bills because the government's incompetent. I mean, really. I mean, I guess we've kind of already covered the fact that the compensation is likely not compensation for most, if not all of them. It's merely damages, I would say, for what they've already spent. But the fact that they now want to tax them on it, I've not read that, it would be outrageous in the extreme. And I sincerely hope the Minister for the Department of Work and Pensions sorts that out with HMRC as soon as possible. Should be 1 million by midnight, but the whole country should sign. I agree. And absolutely, once we hit 1 million, it's not over. I'll prepare it and send it to the Forfeiture Committee to get this in place for when they come to the desk on Monday morning. But absolutely, this isn't the end. It shouldn't be the end. Too many times before, it's kind of been brought to the public's attention. And then as the interest has died down, they've delayed and dilly-dallied and then not done the right thing by these people. So I think it's really important that we keep up this exact pressure until this is fixed to their satisfaction. They've waited 25 years. Just watched the whole ICV series in one sitting. Evil destruction of people's lives and years of cowardly cover-up. Absolutely. I mean, again, speaking from experience, enterprise software has bugs. And for me, it's kind of a small part, it should have been a small part of a story that Horizon had bugs. Of course it does. I don't even need to see the source code to say that it would have had bugs, because all pieces of enterprise software have bugs. They're too big simply not to have bugs. It's not feasible. Never in the history of software development and computers in humanity have we managed such feat. So if somebody did manage that, if Fujitsu managed that, then I would love them to tell me how. But it's the cover-up afterwards. That is the most galling thing. A cover-up is an absolute deliberate attempt to subvert the truth and to deny people justice and to ruin their lives. And that's not acceptable. Maybe ITV's next drama could be about PPE MedPro. Yeah, and I mean, and this is one of the frustrating things I kind of got from Sunak and Starmer, that they're kind of like, well, we need to stay out of it. There's not a lot the government can do. We can't really speed things along. What about the VIP lane? What about the VIP lane during COVID? Yeah, I'm not making any moral judgment on that, but when they needed to speed up the tendering process, they did it. So I can't believe there's nothing they can do now. Even if there isn't anything they could do, they could show willing. They could bring an emergency debate to Parliament, surely. Surely this is part of the job. Surely that's what they are there for, to respond to the public and their needs. Would not be surprised if a whistleblower comes forward who was sacked from Horizon Helpline, aka Cover-Up Line, what they had to tell desperate callers. Yeah, I mean, who knows what they were aware of or not aware of. I imagine what I imagine first-line technical support. They probably just got given answers and didn't really have the experience or skills to question it, because that's not their job. That would come from technical people, from software developers, the enterprise architects, the solution architects. Now to 995,769. Thank you to Valerie, Diane, and Jack, who've signed it recently. Also, postmistresses should be have their funds returned with interest without delay, followed by a swift and significant compo for the loss of a career, business, family life, friends. I could go on. Absolutely. I mean, no amount of money is going to fix this. I mean, that's my personal belief, but, you know, it can ensure that these people aren't continuing to suffer forever. I mean, it won't bring back people from the dead. It can't repair people's careers. Somebody that a sub postmaster was talking to me, saying basically how he had to move across the country. I mean, we can't, you know, because of what happened, to try and rebuild some kind of life. It's not something money can fix. But, you know, that's why the 600,000 or whatever they've announced needs to go up. I'm hoping there's an interim payment. They think that's the absolute bare minimum anyone deserves, on top of having the costs reimbursed. Sky News said Horizon Post Office trialed in North East 1995-96. Interestingly, I haven't read about that. I mean, it would make sense for a system. Normally, any kind of system, particularly one of this scale, you'd hope goes through alpha and beta testing and releasing. But then that also brings up more questions. Why weren't bugs identified then? Surely there was not zero issues during this time. Surely not. I can't believe that. There must have been. Issues always come out in testing, even if you don't catch them all, which you never can. Baffling. I mean, hopefully there'll be more said about that. All those prosecutors should have the conviction automatically overturned. They shouldn't have to fight for it. Absolutely. And I'm hoping that the Justice Secretary does actually get into gear with this. I mean, Rishi Sunak was very much like, I don't want to preempt the Justice Secretary. I mean, come on, let's do the right thing. Get the Justice Secretary out then. Why isn't he saying, Joe, what? This is so clearly and obviously, you know, nobody's disputing that this is the biggest miscarriage of justice in time. There is a mechanism for fixing these things. They can pardon people. You know, they need to sort this out. There is no one on this planet, I think, who thinks any of these convictions are safe, least of all the courts. But, you know, they should help out the courts. From something I was reading before, the courts have to deal with these cases one by one. There's no mechanism to take the criminal convictions into court in the same way as a civil case can be brought on behalf of many people. So it needs intervention from the government to speed up this process, allow it. I mean, I know they shouldn't interfere in the judicial system, but like I say, they have got the potential to pardon somebody. You know, it's a royal prerogative. They can request King Charles, you know, to issue it. I know it's unprecedented, but to be honest, this scandal is unprecedented. Now at 996,043. Thanks Kate, Ian and Graham who signed it recently, and thank you to everyone for your continued support. It means so much. Jane, well done. Thank you, Jane. I wondered if those who are jailed or had their conviction quashed had to repay their prison living and accommodation costs. Interestingly, I've not heard them anybody speak about that, but that was I forget the case recently. It's because my mind is consumed with Post Office and Horizon at the moment. But what was the name of the guy who had his conviction quashed recently, but then part of his compensation, he was wrongly convicted of a murder in the 80s, I think. But he literally had to pay essentially rent to live in prison, the prison that he shouldn't have been in for all those years. Absolutely horrendous. Pete, also, postmasters' mistresses should be paid the earnings from the day they were sacked up to entitlement age today, if not retired. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, why isn't it? We've got a kind of framework in place for something similar. People who have to retire on ill health get, you know, enhanced benefits and don't get reductions for taking them early. It's not like this is totally unforeseeable how such a scheme could be done, you know, and absolutely they should be compensated for the loss of income and, you know, the loss of the pension, the loss of the livelihoods, the loss of the homes. Absolutely. It's a very good point, that, Pete. Thank you. They should also be compensated for the lost pension that never got to build up. Absolutely. Paula Vennells should be ashamed to be seen in public. What an evil woman proclaiming to be a minister as well. I mean, interestingly, it seems that she's disappeared from public view over recent months/years. Seems to have withdrawn a bit from public life following leaving the NHS and the church. It will be interesting to see whether she has anything to say in the coming days. I suspect that the group was small enough that they made them sign NDAs. Well, we know that happens. And sadly, you know, can you blame somebody for signing an NDA if that's the only way they can get compensation that they deserve, and that's what saves the family home? There was one case of that portrayed in Mr. Bates versus the Post Office, where essentially she had the choice between providing the home for her kids and signing the NDA or not. And obviously, if they then breach those NDAs, they're liable to lose benefits or compensation that they've been given as part of the settlement. The bit that resonated most with me was them being told you're the only one. Absolutely. I mean, that line came up so many times, and rightly so. It's insane how many times they were told that, but it's so pleasing that they managed to come together and realise they weren't the only one. I had a similar situation, another job, where I knew it wasn't the case, but they lied to my face. That's terrible. I'm sorry you've had to go through that, Michelle. It's absolutely terrible. This is just not the way that human beings should treat other human beings ever. Hopefully Fujitsu isn't behind the signature count. Quick, get a screenshot of the total so far. Yeah, literally. I mean, Horizon's still in use in post offices now. I mean, that wouldn't be a bad shout, I'd say. I mean, is Horizon fixed now? Are these things still happening? I know the post office aren't prosecuting people anymore, but is this still happening? But yeah, absolutely. Quick definitely takes screenshots. I mean, that moment right at the beginning where Joe was looking at the counter during the drama and literally the shortfall doubled in front of her eyes. That makes no sense. That makes no sense. How the helpline couldn't refer that up then and see that was the start of a major problem, I will not know. The whole situation made me sick to my stomach. How these poor people get up every day amazes me. Absolutely. They've certainly got all my admiration and respect. I can't imagine living with this for one day, let alone 25 years. Terrible of someone that was prosecuted during the Vita trial. That's horrendous, really. Oh my gosh. I mean, there's so many cases to read, and I try to read as many as I can, but I'm convinced I've still only scratched the surface, and that there's... I would hate to hazard a guess and put a number on how many people's lives have been affected by this in total. Andrew Mallickson? Oh, was the name of the person who... right, yeah, I get you. That was horrendous. I remember in one of the interviews him saying, I think he was going to leave the country to try and rebuild a life. I mean, again, another terrible case, another terrible miscarriage of justice. Thanks for that, Christopher. I know someone who was implicated in this, and they still have rumours about them to this day, horrendous lies. And that's it. It's not just... I mean, it would be bad enough anyway. It's not just the professional loss. It's not just the criminal loss. It's the community and social loss. Being alienated for something that you've not done. For 25 years. I mean, you can't compensate for that, can you? But I sure hope the government tries. Mark, I'm not so much angry about the initial mistakes. It's deliberate cover-up and nastiness that was applied. Horrible people, absolutely, Mark. There is software in every piece of... there's bugs in every piece of software ever released. The cover-up is the thing that was deliberate and didn't need to happen. I'd like to think, and I'm fairly sure, no software developer would deliberately put catastrophic bugs into software, but it happens. We are human. But the what happened afterwards, none of that's excusable, because that is deliberate action. Phil, just waiting for the Forfeiture Committee's Weasley words about Vennells keeping the CBE because it's also for a charitable works. Well, charitable works, you can do a lot for charity. It does. I mean, I think there's been this discussion before. Well, actually, I think it was during the Savile documentary. Does doing some good things outweigh you doing a lot of deliberately bad things? I'm not so sure. That washes. That doesn't wash with me. You can't, say, oh, I will prosecute a load of people for crimes they didn't commit. But I'll sit on the board of a charity and do a bit of fundraising, and that cancels it out. So hopefully the public pressure continues to mount and just gets to the stage where it's too much to ignore. That's my hope. And that's one of the reasons why I'm determined to keep this in the spotlight for those people so that they don't get fobbed off one more time. I would love to be able to say in a year's time, looking back on all this, this was the last time they were fobbed off. Because they don't deserve it. Catherine, really hope the board and senior management of Fujitsu is investigated. Let's think about how and why they got away with this disgraceful scandal for so long. Absolutely. There needs to be a complete investigation. I mean, that's what the Horizon inquiry is supposed to be, isn't it? So I guess we'll have to stay tuned to that. But, it wouldn't be the first public inquiry which hasn't got to the nub of an issue, and I hope it really is a sea change and a turning point that people absolutely, that everything comes out. I suspect the group was small enough that they may sign NDAs, Horizon Helpline, sorry. Yeah, probably. As we heard in the drama, it's all about protecting the reputation, so it wouldn't surprise me. Obviously, these people can't speak out themselves because doing so would breach their NDAs, which would mean they forfeit what little the post office might have already provided them. Not under the new schemes, I don't believe that's been issued by the government, but obviously on deals that were made prior to any of these schemes, so outside of the remit of those schemes. Catherine, vested interests of all kinds. Pete is agreeing. Yeah. Okay. Jenny. Yes, on the rumour mill. I live 3 villages down from one poor sub-postmaster's done for this. Husband and wife team in the local paper, all the gossip dreadful. Absolutely. And I think this is one of the tragedies. I would hope, although I've not seen it so far, that a lot of these local papers, if they were quick to run stories about people for crimes that they actually didn't commit, I would hope that these very same papers prioritise publicising, their innocence. Massive irony, post office built some of the first modern Turing complete computers, and now biggest thing known for now is computer failure. Absolutely. I mean, this should rightfully hang over them for a very, very long time, in part for how they've dragged it on so very long. I really think prison sentence is due for this crime, and the Met Police have announced they are investigating potential fraud offences at the post office, so it does seem like there is some action being taken. I do believe, from what I've read previously, that under any kind of post office investigation, the Met Police previously, I want to say in 2020 or 2021, arrested 2 people under caution but released them without charge. Not sure who those 2 people were. Daniel, it's disgusting that Fujitsu did not come clean or at least admit the issues. Absolutely. I mean, have they made a statement yet? I've not seen one yet. I mean, it is terrible. They do need to... they were part of the problem. They need to be part of the solution for this. How many systems do we have with Fujitsu? Are they all okay? Well, I believe Fujitsu still contract for the government quite heavily. Interestingly, and it's probably something, that, hopefully with the people's consent, I will be able to share their stories who are not sub-postmasters and not affected directly by the scandal, but have witnessed other things that they worry about. Hopefully, in conjunction with them, if they are able to, they'll be able to speak to me about some of the issues, because it does seem there are potential ongoing issues outside of the post office, related to the public sector. Don't want to say too much because I don't want to get anybody in trouble or anything, but there is clearly, obviously, more to this, which would make sense. There won't just be one issue with one system. My friend developed cancer during all of this. I'm convinced it was the stress she suffered. So tragic. It's absolutely so tragic. I can't imagine it, and the ill health, both physical and mental, that people have suffered because of it is abominable. Absolutely. It'd be interesting to see the annual audit reports from the post office. Where the hell do they think the extra money came from? Obviously not from sales. How did they expect to explain the money from nowhere? My understanding from the drama and the subsequent documentary, I think it might have been in both, it was certainly in the drama, was essentially the money paid over by sub-postmasters was kind of held in a holding account, which makes me think, well, do people think, well, where do we put this money? Because we're actually not sure what this money is. And then after a couple of years, it was just booked as profit for the post office, which is obscene. Presumably, their accounts are going to show an equivalent loss when it's paid back. Jeff, the key thing is, does a retain the CBE bring the honours system into disrepute? To me, the clear answer is yes. So the next question is how may the Forfeiture Committee be petitioned? And absolutely, and that's what we're doing here. That's what we're doing here, and hopefully will lead to some systemic change. Without 997,056 signatures, Caroline, Ian and Mike, thank you for your most recent signatures a few seconds ago. Much appreciated. Thank you everyone for all your support, and thank you to everyone coming on this live stream or watching this video back. Really is appreciated. I mean, let's be honest, this isn't the first questionable decision related to honours or people receiving honours, is it? I mean, it's barely died down about the furore about the Liz Truss honours list. I mean, what was she in office for? 45 days? And, you know, they were like, well, it's only a short honours list. What? And people who are getting honours, it seems to be like a quid pro quo payback for kind of doing their job, one could say. Well, why aren't everyday people getting honours for doing their jobs? Nurses, doctors, you know, during the pandemic, you know, people who work in the private sector doing jobs that, you know, in supermarkets, that get our food delivered, you know, that help us with things, carers, you know, people who work in warehouses, delivery drivers. Why aren't all these people getting honours for doing the jobs? Someone needs to be held accountable, as Zahawi said. As Zahawi said, the book stops with her. I hate the association of the call, but lock her up. Well, absolutely. And then some people have mentioned the petition. I think that's been set up calling for a criminal conviction. But some people have pointed out petitioning the police service or the government to bring a criminal conviction isn't something that can happen. And rightly so, because we don't want the legislature of the country to be able to dictate to the police who is charged and who is not charged. But it's obvious that if there is suspicion of a crime, that it should be thoroughly investigated. And though where there is that sufficient evidence, that they should be charged and brought to justice. The two people are Gareth Jenkins and Anne Chambers, both from Fujitsu. Thank you, Nicola. Fujitsu Siemens have just been offered an extension to the contract for Horizon in the last few months. I mean, it seems like nothing's been learned. I mean, has anyone actually ever come out? I mean, it seems like everybody's in agreement now that there are errors, but if this were adamant there weren't errors before, have these been fixed? Has anything been addressed? Has anything been changed? Or is it just business as usual? While people's lives were being wrecked, while people were dying, they just carried on. Rightly so, Vennells is the focus for the country's anger regarding this massive miscarriage of justice. What is happening regarding Fujitsu? I mean, the hope is if we keep on building enough momentum with this campaign, now up to 999,299. Thank you, Elizabeth, Annika and Sue, who've signed in the last few seconds. The hope is, well, you know, I'm determined to keep going with this and absolutely want to keep going with this for, you know, the people affected to get the justice that they deserve. And essentially, you know, this will go beyond Paula Vennells. It will go out to everybody. I mean, already based on the outrage and people signing petitions in the news articles that I've read today, there is, I mean, nobody's saying because of the petition, the Met Police have started an investigation. However, the Met Police investigation only seemed to be announced after the petition started getting some pretty major coverage in news outlets for going up to 100,000, 200,000, 300,000. Maybe there is an association, maybe there isn't. The main thing is that that investigation is happening. I wonder why the contribution of Private Eye, who supported the sub-postmaster and gave them a platform, has not been acknowledged. They were there when Fleet Street wasn't. Absolutely. If you haven't seen the piece in Private Eye, if you Google Private Eye, post office scandal, it will come up. They've done a fantastic piece, including case studies and interviews with some of the sub-postmasters and their families of sub-postmasters who are tragically no longer with us. And it is an amazing piece of journalism. Absolutely. Why were there always shortfalls? Well, that's a good question. I mean, I guess to answer the question factually now, based off what we know, is that there weren't shortfalls. There weren't shortfalls. There weren't before Horizon. And even though Horizon was saying there weren't after Horizon. There were perceived shortfalls. That didn't make any sense. And one of the things is, after they left the paper-based system, with a centralised system like Horizon, there was absolutely no way for postmasters to prove they weren't responsible for the shortfalls, or to prove that the shortfalls didn't exist, even though they knew they couldn't. Nicola now down to 3,000 to go. Yeah, I think we're at 997,490 signatures now. Thank you, Georgina, Claire, and Andrew for the latest signatures in the last few seconds. I used to think I'd heard of inspirational, amazing people in life. I became aware of Mr. Bates and what he has done for the sub-postmaster. I have no words. Surely the world is now his oyster. I certainly hope so. And one of the things that I hope, I mean, I'm not so sure. I don't know personally whether, I mean, obviously I've seen the news that he doesn't want to accept the OBE while Paula Vennells retains her CBE, which is completely understandable. But I would hope that when they strip Paula Vennells of her CBE, that he is re-offered it, and that if he wants it, that he can accept it. Because, my gosh, if there's anybody that deserves an OBE or a CBE for services to the post office and to charity, it's him. Why were there always shortfalls? Why did it never show a surplus? Interesting questions. I think there are some documents, and I think the drama kind of alluded to it, although did skim over it a bit. I think the issue seemed to be, or certainly one of the issues seemed to be, if there were multiple terminals in the shops, what seemed to be happening at times was a transaction put through one terminal was kind of duplicating the paid in another terminal. If that was the main problem, that might explain why there was always shortfalls and never a surplus. Yes, Joe Wilson, numbers in a computer cock-up became real money. Absolutely, when they should never have been. We think we have problems, but compared to over 20 years of worry, stress, financial deprivation, bankruptcy and imprisonment, they're nothing. Yeah. Robert, what pressure must the developer support staff have been under to not say anything? That would have been a sizable group of people. Robert, probably an awful lot. Probably similar pressure to low, junior people, mid-level people within the post office as well. I know from my experience of reading and signing software development contracts, I mean, the penalties for disclosure of intellectual property, or I forget the exact word, but the equivalent of company secrets, information, the normal word information that you obtain during your role is company confidential and can't be disclosed. And that is a clause which is usually explained to survive the contract. So in other words, when the employment contract is terminated by either you're dismissed or you resign, that clause lives on for your life. Deb, a quick look at the cast list shows they've found someone to play Paula Vennells, CEO of the Post Office Limited at the same time, but there's no one playing Adam Crozier, who's CEO of Royal Mail Limited. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I've put so much time and effort in the years and the things I've read into reading about the scandal. Royal Mail is barely ever mentioned. I don't know how they fit into the puzzle, if they fit into the puzzle at all. I mean, if anybody's got any recommended reading for that, I would absolutely love to take a look. Those people aren't making big donations to party coffers. Well, that's true, James. Money does talk in our society. Hopefully now the voice of the public talks. Well, it is talking. Hopefully it's listened to. And if not, we keep going. Crozier played a significant role in the real-life scandal, but looks to have been stripped out of dramatisation. Yeah, again, not sure why, not sure of his involvement or of Royal Mail. Maybe it was just too tricky to write the scene where Crozier left Royal Mail to become CEO of ITV. Who knows? So Deb said that, and I'll be honest, who knows? I mean, I guess we can't expect ITV to have known about the issues, if there were any on the Royal Mail side. I don't know, to be honest. I think Adam Crozier did end up leaving to be CEO of ITV. I think that is correct. Obviously, with any of the comments that I'm reading, I appreciate, and I'm, to be respectful to everyone, I'm taking at face value what you're saying. I'm not changing it in any way. But obviously, I guess it's worth just pointing out, I'm not stating these things as facts necessarily. The facts are out there and speak for themselves, and people can look up for them. There are obviously, in addition to the facts and the outcomes of various processes, lots of allegations and claims flying about, and it's just important. That's why we need the inquiry and the police investigation more than ever, to make sure these are investigated and heard. Nicola says the police have been watching the inquiry closely, but they're keeping quiet so that people actually speak to the inquiry. I mean, if that's the motivation, fair enough. Absolutely. The more people that come forward to it, obviously the better. Gareth Jenkine tried to negotiate that his testimony couldn't be used in criminal prosecution, so when Williams has shot that down in flames. Yeah, surely now's not the time for people to be putting caveats on the truth. You can't do that. It's time to speak up. You can't do that. I wouldn't think anybody should feel reasonable asking or demanding that. Jane says, I do believe from reading the news the Horizon system now isn't what it was at the time of all those bugs. Well, I certainly hope so. I absolutely certainly hope so. What did they do? Kind of replace it? The travesty here is, if Horizon has been fundamentally stripped down or built from the bottom up again, because I believe it's still Fujitsu that maintain it, it's not like they've gone to another company to replace it, then surely that's an admission of major problems. You wouldn't throw away, well, I know the public spending hasn't always been done in the most careful terms, but you wouldn't throw away what was at the time the biggest non-military IT project in Europe in 1999 when it was first implemented after testing. You wouldn't bin that on a whim if it was working. So when did they replace that? When did they start knowing about that? Who was responsible for the prompting the accounts of the Federation rep? Who's calling those shots? Well, yeah, thanks for that comment. After he visited Fujitsu. I mean, it's impossible to say, isn't it? I mean, if from the documentary, what we take is that Fujitsu were the ones with direct access to the system. Obviously, I mean, the timeline as we know it and the facts we know it is he visited Fujitsu and there were problems in his account subsequently, and he was a Federation rep that was representing members' interests. I think he said 50% of which his cases were Horizon-based. Draw from that, conclusions that you will. So it's not just done and bug. It was done purposely to punish him. I mean, that's a theory. Was somebody asking too many questions? I guess we've seen cases of this happening in the past. 10 years ago, government abandoned NHS useless new computer system called Lorenzo, cost taxpayer $9 billion plus. Guess who? Fujitsu. I didn't know it was them who also provided that. I remember that being a big scandal at the time, all that time ago. Well, 10 years ago, about the amount of money. I think they said it was the largest spend on an IT system in the history of the government. That was then obviously dumped before it was even used. I mean, if it was buggy and would have caused untold trauma to people in some ways, I guess it's a silver lining to bin $9 billion compared to putting people's lives at risk and punishing them for things they haven't done. Emma, well done, David. Keep going. Nearly there. Absolutely, we are nearly there. We're at 998,110. Thank you, Sonia, Awona, and Claire, for your signing in the last few seconds. Thank you to everybody for their support. It is greatly appreciated. We can get this off to the Forfeiture Committee and hopefully get some action going. Absolutely. Royal Mail split from the Post Office in 2001. Yeah, so that's why I'm not sure on the links between Royal Mail and Post Office and the involvement of the Royal Mail subsequently. I guess it's that period between 1999 and 2001 that we're focusing on. Nearly there. Yes, absolutely. We're now at 998,161. I've worried. I thought, will we run out of people who want to sign it? But then I think actually, with the groundswell of public opinion, I can't see that being an issue. I actually think it will continue to grow, and rightly so. Which will mean if we need to, we'll make a second submission to the Forfeiture Committee, a third submission, a fourth submission, a fifth submission, with increasingly more signatures each time. The calendar square bug, yes. Suzanne, the government needs to stop this happening again. Absolutely. There must be a process in place to support the general public investigating when criminal charges are. Absolutely. Politicians need to hold these people accountable, and maybe we could hold our politicians to account more, because we have seen some terrible behaviour reported, and people resigning and recall petitions being happening. My understanding of the American system with a recall petition is if enough of your constituents want to recall you and you meet the threshold, they can recall you at any point. So essentially, if the people who are elected you're thinking you're doing a bad job, they can effectively sack you and make a by-election happen. Why isn't that the case in this country? Surely this is part of the higher standards in public life, that constituents can recall the representatives if they aren't serving their interests well. It would stop all of this second, third, fourth job, or going on to I'm a celebrity and not doing your job but still getting paid, things like that. I'm mentioning no names, obviously. I'm not hitting the set now until I see it hit 1 million. Yeah, well, hopefully we'll be able to deliver that soon. Currently 998,263. Thank you, Karen, Callum and Hugh, for signing most recently. The question I have is why she isn't in prison for corporate manslaughter. I mean, I believe up until the petition started getting taken off and then the Met Police started an investigation, I believe, in criminal terms, there's only ever been 2 arrests, and both resulted in no further action. So I guess the reason why nobody's in prison is because nobody's been charged, which presumably charges haven't been brought because there's not enough evidence, which presumably, given that everybody is describing this as the greatest miscarriage of justice in the history of the country, presumably that's because there hasn't been a sufficient investigation to establish that, because normally the only reason charges aren't brought is if there's not a sufficient investigation, or essentially it can't uncover the evidence, or no crime has taken place. But I think it feels like the ship has sailed on the latter one, for sure. Colin, how about organising a strike by all current subpostmasters in support until compensation is paid, all names cleared and CBE taken away? I mean, it's interesting. That would obviously have to be directed by the subpostmasters' own union and would be a decision for them and their members to make. But it feels cruel to almost punish the current subpostmasters in terms of, obviously, they will lose pay, and punish communities being deprived of these services for something that isn't their fault. But I do get the sentiment you're trying to say, Colin, absolutely. 998,000. Yep, 998,380. Louise, Sue, Gary, thank you for your recent signatures. Oh, I am quite tired. I mean, I'm going to say the last few days have been some kind of unimaginable roller coaster, surreal experience that I never expected when I set up this petition in 2020. But I'm so glad it has taken it off. But certainly, I am a little bit tired for today, and I do have to make sure that I at least get some sleep so that I can go to work tomorrow. Otherwise, definitely all the people that are in charge of my bills won't be happy about me not paying them. But I thought this moment was too big to miss. It was, and I want to make sure, my commitment that I said to, both everyone who signed, all of you who are on the live stream, and all the people who've sent me emails in support. I wanted to make sure that I follow through on that commitment as soon as possible, that once it reaches the 1 million signatures, it will be submitted immediately to the Forfeiture Committee. Johnny, and remember Fujitsu insisted that he'd never been there until he produced evidence. Yeah, that was crazy in the drama, wasn't it? I mean, he had to dig through for the evidence that he actually went. I mean, thank God he had that invitation, right? Otherwise, what would have happened then? He would have just not been believed, presumably. It's like waiting for Neil Armstrong to land on the moon. Great work, David. Thank you very much. It's like a bit of a bit of a. It's normally a bit different. Normally, I think on YouTube, people are used to seeing videos waiting for like 1 million subscribers, 10 million, 100 million. I think Mr. Beast and PewDiePie and people like that do that. So I thought, well, why don't we make it about petitions and public and community action as well? Why can't we have a countdown? I mean, it'd be nice if the numbers updated automatically. I will probably, and I'm hoping not to have repetitive strain injury in my finger before long. But I think I'll be fine. I've spent many years clicking a mouse. So we're down to the last 1,500 now. Thank you for your support. 998,500. Joanna, Jenna, Heartright, thank you for your signatures in the last few seconds. The moment watching Julie Hasbitale play Suzanne, watching TV, telling Vennells to pee off. Yeah, I thought Julie Hasbitale's portrayal of Suzanne was amazing. The character was really endearing, as I'm sure the real Suzanne is in real life. But that was, the relationship between her and Alan as well, and the way that was portrayed was just beautiful. Annika, I don't understand. Don't understand about what? This was all bound. Oh, sorry. This is all what is bound to happen eventually when you privatise for profit. People are collateral when money is the purpose of the brand. Yeah, I mean, obviously there are many talks about how public sector and private sector privatisation into the private sector, and obviously there's many people who are detractors from that and say it doesn't work. And obviously Post Office has a sole shareholder now of being the UK government, but obviously, I mean, this has been highlighted recently with the RAC crisis in schools. I'm going to get this wrong now. Reinforced aeroclave aerated concrete. I don't know whether I got that right, but the RAC scandal and obviously the lack of investment in buildings, and obviously many schools have now kind of done this kind of part privatisation of some kind, or well, I don't know what to call it. Officially, they've converted to academy status, haven't they? But whatever it is, it doesn't seem to be doing schools a service compared to previously under local education authorities. 1 million before or after midnight, Philas. I mean, I'd like it to be before midnight. I mean, I guess a few more shares and a few more sign-ins. A surge in signs might do it. I think it might be just after midnight. But we'll see how we go. Where did the money go? Where did the money the postmasters paid back go? I don't think it was a computer bug. Well, allegedly, it just got booked as profit. Get there around 12:30, I think. It could be a good shout. Should we start a sweepstake on when the million's going to be reached? Cabinet Office websites, there is an expectation that those who will receive an honour and will continue to be good citizen role models. It also says the Forfeiture Committee considers cases put to it when the holder of an honour has been brought the honours system into disrepute. I mean, obviously, they will have a judgment on that. It feels like this is a pretty solid case. I would hope. Let's hope they agree. The ability for the Post Office to independently investigate, prosecute and sentence their staff was given when the Post Office was formed in 1600s. Why has this ability been removed? Yeah, this does seem like an old relic of a system gone by. Surely the police should be the only people investigating people for crimes, and kind of being able to short-circuit this process seems to be one of the abiding factors behind this. I was reading some stats on the Post Office website where they're keen to say, and I don't know how up-to-date these are because it says it's updated as of the 3rd of January, but it said 73 people have been exonerated, I believe. But I think they were at pains to point out that 3 of the prosecutions had actually been brought by the police, not the Post Office themselves, as if in some way, I don't know, that reduces the culpability. It was just an interesting way that was kind of added as an aside. It didn't seem to serve any other purpose. I slept through Moonwalk, but I was 31 days old, so, well, I guess you can be forgiven for that, Nicola. You sleep a lot at 31 days old, definitely. Being your own private prosecutor is a conflict or interesting when you're supposedly the victim. Conflict of interest, absolutely. You can't be judge, jury, and executioner. I mean, that's bound to be abused and rife with mistakes. Let's hope the petition software isn't made by Fujitsu. I think we are safe with that one, although I couldn't conclusively 100% say it's not made by them. I'm 99.5% sure it's not. They intend to bring charges current ongoing post office Horizon IT inquiry. Well, that's good to hear. We're approaching 999,000 now. Thank you, Lisa, Rosemary, and David, who signed in the last few seconds. If the Forfeiture Committee don't do the right thing quickly, I'd recommend taking the matter straight to King Charles. This might be unheard of, but this is an unprecedented scandal. This is interesting. I was thinking about this before. Is it the dumb thing to, I know I've done my call to action tonight, and I don't know whether anyone's seen it for Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer. Is it the dumb thing to do a call to action on YouTube? Sorry, to YouTube. On YouTube to the monarch? I don't know. But, hey, if it helps get him justice, I'm willing to give it a go. Hopefully he'll forgive me. If it's not the done thing, sure, the PO solicitors should be struck off. And charged for actively perverting the course of justice, knowing, hiding, preventing evidence from the judicial system. Well, I would hope anyone involved in any wrongdoing is brought to justice, absolutely. Hopefully, stop talking and click. Sorry. It's because you're giving so many thought-provoking comments. 998,917 signatures. Thank you, Vicky, Margaret, and Rahul, for your recent signatures. I believe that the Post Office Revenue Collection Service investigation will prosecute for obtaining funds under duress. Well, it doesn't seem like they were left with any solution, any alternative, were they? I mean, the things these people were put through and the pressure they were put under to pay back this money, which wasn't actually missing. Right, another refresh, 998,937. Thank you, Douglas, Dean, and Mark, for signing it in the last few seconds. Sheila, I must congratulate you for starting this petition. It's absolutely brilliant. The injustice and scandal has been horrendous, and people responsible should be brought to justice. Well done. Thank you very much, Sheila. It has been absolutely heartwarming to read emails from members of the public, from people infected, from people who followed the campaign, from people who signed 3 years ago, from people who've just found it, from people on the live stream. I have said before, obviously, that I've not been able to reply to everyone individually, and I'm so sorry about that. I have, though I can say, replied to, I think it's just under 10 subpostmasters who have reached out to me and thanked me, which, I found, I was almost like, well, what have I done? This is tiny compared to what you've gone through, but nevertheless, they were very thankful. And my heart goes out to them, and I'm just so proud in a way. Should I be proud? I don't know. I think I should be proud, hopefully, of the fact that actually they feel like I have done something to help the cause. But obviously, that is for other people to determine, for other people to judge my admittedly small, but hopefully helpful contribution to the cause of these sub-postmasters and sub-postmistresses. Click now. 990,029 and 31. Click now. Thanks, David, for making a petition. No problem at all. Like I say, I mean, I've done campaigning before, and I do campaign on things that are close to my heart. And where there is injustice, I do want to call it out. I do have a strong sense of civic duty. I always seek in my work to find something that has purpose, that has a public purpose, that helps people, that makes our society better. And some days, I know we probably look out and think, wow, how did we get into this state as a society? But then there are other times where you know, the collection of people coming together, the amazing things that we do for people as human beings, the amazing work people do at food banks and charities and volunteers at hospitals, and everything people did over the pandemic just reminds you of the essential goodness of humanity. 999,075. Share. Yes, absolutely, Jane. Share. Ooh, 38 degrees. Congratulations, David, and everyone who has signed. It's not every day that a petition has 1 million. This is remarkable. Thank you very much. I don't think I've ever spoken to anyone from 38 degrees directly, but thank you very much. Very honoured that you are here along with everybody else to hopefully see this momentous point in history. 999,100 signatures. I've got this fear it'll stick at 999,999, but it won't. It won't, will it? It'll keep on going up. And don't forget, even after this hits 1 million, that's our first milestone, but we need to keep on going. Because I think one of the things which has epitomised what has happened in this scandal is that they seem to get a bit of traction and then they're cast aside and delay and put off, and then it falls out of the news cycle and out of public attention. I think it's really important for the sub-postmasters and sub-postmistresses and all the families that have been affected that that doesn't happen this time, that this is the last time they are forgotten about. You did it. Thanks, Jane. I feel it's a bit premature at the moment. 999,171, but thank you anyway. I think the royal family are keen to seem to be in touch and modern. What could be more in touch than responding to people power on behalf of hard-working, skint little people? Yeah, I mean, I identify with that. I mean, I obviously am thankful for, well, I've worked very hard in all the jobs that I've ever done, but, I'm thankful for everything that I have, but, I think the cost of living crisis hitting us all, and it is a struggle, isn't it? And my heart goes out to people who are struggling more than I am for whatever reason. The people who can't afford to switch on the heating. I might balk at my heating bill, but I can actually afford to switch it on. And I just hope that there is some fundamental change coming in the country where we can start addressing a lot of these problems. 999,220. Thank you, Luca, Eddie, and Alex. Interesting if the person from 38 degrees is still here. I don't know how many 38 degrees petitions have ever reached 1 million signatures. Is there loads now? Are you going to burst our bubble and say about 1 million? I think the royal family. Oh, sorry, I've already read that. Yeah, Jane, if you hit 1 million 38 degrees, just confirm 12 on the dot. It hit 1 million. It hit 1 million. Has it hit 1 million? Why am I still on 999,249? 255. It's not saying 1 million to me. But we're in the last 1,000. Thank you so much to everyone for the support. Thank you, Claudia, David, Amrit. The 38 degrees sent out the email prematurely. Should I have a look? Has it been sent out as an email? Is that what people are saying? I mean, well, I'm glad they've got confidence that it's going to hit that. I'm glad that is the case. I should have definitely brought some water to this. It seemed like a good plan at the time, but I definitely didn't bring any water, so I'm kind of hoping that I won't start coughing now or anything like that. Oh. Right. I was having a look at my email, wasn't I? Yeah, the numbers that other people are commenting are kind of what I'm seeing. Your computer is behind, dude. Really? Am I behind or are 38 degrees ahead? I don't know. Or have they not sent anything? Let me have a look. I've not had anything off them yet. Oh, do you mean because they commented above? Oh, I think they were just graciously showing faith that we were going to reach the target. But they might be able to confirm. You just got to mention on LBC News. Me? Or the sub-postmasters? Like me or the sub-postmasters? I mean, I'm hoping that, whatever happens, I know that there's been a few well, a couple of news organisations that have reached out to me to comment, and I've tried to get back to them about the petition. And I am glad that obviously that the main thrust and focus has been on the sub-postmasters themselves, because they are the ones who deserve that kind of attention, obviously. 38 Degrees, we've emailed you, David. Oh, right, I'll check now. Because obviously, I mean, I feel, like I say, I feel compelled about this, about social justice, about helping, holding people accountable, helping to improve our society. And it's something that I want to continue forevermore. Who knows? Maybe one day, maybe that's the job that I'll work in. Although at the moment I do work in a career where it helps other people, so that gives me a lot of satisfaction. But it's something that's just ingrained in me, something that's just built in. Yes, you should be proud. You stuck with it, and it's worth it. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's been 4 years to get to this point, and admittedly, I thought it would never happen. We've emailed you, David. Right, I'm literally 999,390. Looking at my email. Have I brought 38 Degrees down? 38 Degrees. Message. I mean, I've had lots of messages from lots of other people, but I can't see one directly from 38 Degrees. I apologise if I'm just like tired and missing it. I'll keep an eye out. Nice bit of people out power here. Well done. Yeah, thanks, Tim, for your comment. 38 Degrees confirmed at 12 that you did it. Congrats. We're getting there. Woohoo. I mean, if we have already done it, fantastic. If not, we're on our way to it. And ultimately, this is such a milestone. We can celebrate it twice, can't we? We can celebrate it twice. So I'll be sure once it hits 1 million that this goes straight off to the Forfeiture Committee, and then I am afraid I will probably have to go for a little sleep so that I can function tomorrow when I have to get up for work. But don't worry, this won't be over. I will absolutely keep you all informed, keep you informed of the gov.uk petition, which is still under review. I'm guessing the government petitions team doesn't work weekends, and that's why we've not heard. The petition is on the homepage of 38 Degrees. It has not yet hit 1 million, but we're confident that it will happen tonight. Or early this morning, as we now are. I am glad. I'm glad 38 Degrees are confident. I'm glad all you guys are confident, because although logically my brain tells me that I should be confident, I never, I've got a policy of never jumping the gun on these things. Jane, you're a humble man. Thank you. Oh, thank you for your kind comments. I mean, all I ever want to do is I find so much value in helping people, in doing voluntary work, in trying to raise awareness of lots of issues, be them health issues, cost issues like this to do with justice. We're now into the last 500, and I hope to continue doing that for the rest of my life. Absolutely. It was quite funny. It kind of struck me today. Someone emailed me and said, please can you stand for Parliament? I'd vote for you. And literally, I can definitely say nobody has ever said that to me before in my life. But I am absolutely humbled by the fact that at least one person in the country would actually vote for me if I ever stood for election. Good question, David. Not sure. The last one was in 2021. Wow. Thank you, 38 Degrees, for confirming that. So, interestingly, if 38 Degrees could get that back to me on how many there are in total, I don't know how easy that is for them to sort out. And they are an amazing organisation that do rely on donations to keep this fantastic website up and running. So, absolutely, they are an organisation certainly worth supporting, and I hope it brings them some much needed attention as well, so that they can continue to host fantastic campaigns like this, because frankly, obviously the drama would have still gone out, but in terms of people like me who are just to quote the drama, just like little people like me, obviously, I mean, I wouldn't have the resources to kind of host such a platform and do the advertising for it and build the campaign network they have. So I am thankful to 38 Degrees for that. So shout out for that. How about some disbarments for law? Where are the ethical monitors for the bar and for solicitors? Well, I think that's still in place, Alan. So, like I say, I would hope this is all investigated. Less than 700 to go. Yep, we've got less than 500 now. Correct, it's not happened yet. Perfect. I'm glad I'm not going potty. No, not yet. I reckon another 10 minutes. What happens when it reaches a million? Does Parliament talk about it? So this is an interesting question that people have asked. So concurrently, and I have submitted it, it's awaiting review because it's got its first 20 supporters. We have got an official petition on the gov.uk website because from looking into this and discussing with people, one additional thing we thought out is it would be great if this had to be debated in Parliament and great if it had to get an official response from government. Now, on the gov.uk website, if they accept the petition, if we get that to 10,000, which we should be able to do easily, I would hope, it will get an official response by government, 100,000 on that petition, and it will get debated in Parliament. So in addition to this, when it gets to 1 million, I'm going to send it to the Forfeiture Committee to get that process in motion so that they have it first thing Monday morning. Please, 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 though, don't think this is the end of the road. Absolutely keep subscribing, for updates on the system. I'm absolutely going to do, more video explains. Loads of people have asked me for, software development perspective, professional opinion on software projects in general and how this might apply to Horizon. And I think there's a clamour for more information. So I'm absolutely happy to contribute to that and amazed by how many people want to listen to me about that. It's all still a bit surreal, but I'm more than happy to do that, as well as the campaigning on the post office scandal and obviously the primary aim of getting justice for the subpostmasters. So we've got 999,339. Thank you. I've got it at 669 at the moment. Hopefully that agrees with what 38 Degrees saying. Sorry for the confusion. It was not tonight. Someone from our team named David Innes has been trying to get in touch this week. Oh, really? I am sorry. I have possibly missed that. Let me do a search. I am not purposely ignoring anything. My inbox now, it's getting pretty hard to find anything. Oh, right. Yeah, actually, I can find that. Thank you, 38 Degrees. Oh, yes. Yeah, so actually, to update, I did read that email. Sorry, my brain is going a bit civvy-like now. It's probably a combination of tiredness and joy and being overwhelmed. But actually, I did draft an email to be sent out with an initial update on Saturday. It said it would go to an administrator for review. I just presumed that maybe it wouldn't be reviewed to the week, to the start of the week, because I don't think that's actually gone out to supporters yet. No worries, 38 Degrees. It's a matter of time. Yeah, absolutely. And will there be fireworks? Haven't specifically budgeted or arranged for fireworks. I can make fireworks sounds when it gets to 100,000. Maybe I can play a fireworks video when it gets to 100,000. Have I got time to make a drink? Oh, that's the age-old question. That's the age-old question. So yes, 38 Degrees. Just to confirm, I did draft an email. So I think that was the last I heard from that. It was with an administrator for review. So I don't know if that's gone out yet. I don't know if anyone can confirm. Give it 5 minutes. I mean, yeah. When people ask you in a few years' time, where were you when the millionth signature was added, you don't want to say, I missed it making a brew, do you? Although I do appreciate, as somebody now with a very dry throat and who clearly didn't prepare for this, that I should have actually brought up a drink. I am going to treat myself to a small glass of water before I go to bed, so that hopefully I can still speak in the morning. Tim Rice, this will go much further. Share. Yeah, absolutely. Don't stop sharing. Don't stop encouraging people to sign. It's really important that should the Forfeiture Committee and others try to start backtracking, like we've seen the drama has happened before with the parties involved in this, we need to make sure the constant pressures are there. We can't give up. We can't just assume this is actually done now. Does the YouTube live here have a few minutes delay? It feels that way as David isn't answering the latest questions. Yes, sorry, and I am. It's a combination of me trying to keep up with the chat now and the fact there is a small delay on. I think that is out of my control, that YouTube put in the way. I'm sorry about that. It's as live as I can possibly make it. Literally 5 minutes and the big million will happen. Yeah, thank you. If you do want to stay updated with this, because like I say, I am not going to let this go. I first obviously spoke about this in 2020 when I was doing it. Through my interest in technology, I feel like I am competent to comment on software development projects and the Horizon system itself. So this is absolutely going to continue. So if you are interested in keeping up to date with the videos, then please do subscribe. I will also keep the petition site updated. I will try to keep everybody updated through as many platforms as possible. Pete, congratulations, David. Thank you, Pete. Jonathan, has the Forfeiture Committee been in touch? Do you have to contact them? Yeah, so essentially, once we reach 1 million, which seems to be the number that people coalesced around, I will send the petition to the Forfeiture Committee, and then I will keep videos and updates coming over the coming days on the progress of that, and any responses that I get, so that it's on the news again. Which news are we on, Jane? Imagine if the live was live on news. That's like Googling Google, isn't it? Well, I'm glad it's getting so much attention. Which news is it on now, Jane? I mean, I totally should be sleeping straight after this, but you just know that I'm going to go and try and listen back to what's been said, because I'm really hope it's getting a lot of positive coverage, and that it's putting pressure on the people that it needs to come out and take action to deliver justice as swiftly as possible for the sub-postmasters. 2 reasons keep Brits up after midnight, New Year's Eve, and this petition. We're down to the last 100 now. Phil, Glenn, Ian, thank you for signing a few seconds ago. 913, 916. Would you look at the high cost of fuel? Or energy companies constantly overcharge us? Absolutely. There's loads of issues here. Used to work in the IT division of the post office, just left as they outsourced this to Fujitsu. I would have been easy to see that the postmasters were not in control of Horizon. Absolutely. I think to anybody with technical insight into the industry, some of these statements that have been made over time just didn't make a lot of sense. 949, 950. I think some of this additional media attention, is now driving us faster to 1 million. So I will literally constantly click refresh, because we don't want to miss the big million moment. Thank you, David. We're all people powered, and we couldn't do this without all of you. Well, thank you very much. I very much appreciate that. Hope it's one of many successful campaigns for social justice and doing the right thing going forward, to ensure that we live in a fair society that is just. 999,965 now. I dare say we'll be hearing more about this in the news today or tomorrow. Yes, I dare say this won't go away, and we have to make sure that it won't. 980, 984, 985. Actually more exciting than the millennium. Very happy. She's already deleted any reference to the post office from her LinkedIn. Oh gosh, is that since we've done the petition? Is that since the petition started taking off? 991. Just keep the big countdown going. Your petition is being retweeted by celebs and politicians. Oh my gosh. 998, 900. Oh, we've done it. We have done it. 1,000,004 signatures. Thank you so much. It is only through your support that these campaigns can take off, and that these people can get the justice, the sub-postmasters and the families can get the justice that they deserve. Just to address the point about the signatures target going up to 1.1 million, I just want to say 38 degrees, and I'm sure they will confirm it. The platform does, once you reach a target, automatically set a new target, but do not worry. I will now send this off to the Forfeitures Committee. We're now at 1,034. And absolutely, keep sharing it. Keep this in the spotlight. Thank you for all the congratulations. I am so humbled. I don't think I've received this many congratulations and thank yous and well dones in the course of such a short space of time as I have over the past few days. and everybody is very welcome, not least the people that have been affected by this terrible scandal. And I can see the signatures continuously going up. Hopefully people who haven't managed to stay up this late will be able to watch this back in the morning. I don't know, it's a bit like watching a rerun of like general election night, isn't it? But hopefully this is a point in history, and hopefully we can look back at it as a point where things started turning on, and actually, you know, they finally get the justice that they deserve. I'll definitely one thing I do want to emphasize is this isn't over. We do need to keep the pressure on, so please do keep doing the fantastic work that you're doing, and share it with as many people as possible. Get them to sign it. I'll give an update on the gov.uk petition tomorrow, because I'm hoping that will go live then, and I will share a link with you. And if we can do our stuff on there, even if we only do a tenth of what we've done on this, it will get debated by Parliament. Thank you. A lot of people saying congratulations, superb. Van Bogert next. Well, yes, there's obviously more people to be held to account, and I'm hoping that this will lead to a sea change and the acceptance from those in power that actually there does need to be more accountability. There does need to be full and complete justice. Absolutely. I'd love to be a fly on the wall for Paula Vennells. She's probably watching. I did actually think to myself before, I wondered whether she was aware of this position, and I did actually wonder if she absolutely hated me along with others now. But then, you know, it's always the right thing to bring miscarriages of justice to public forefront. And yes, thank you. Yes, Toby Jones is a brilliant actor. I am going to go and try and get some sleep now. Otherwise, I think, well, I will be exhausted in the morning. But thank you for joining the live stream. Thank you again for all your support. It really is appreciated. And I'm sure all the subpostmasters and subpostmistresses absolutely do appreciate everything that everyone's done here. So don't forget, you can obviously subscribe to the channel here for further updates as the days go on the gov.uk petition. There's some freedom of information requests that I'm thinking of making coming up, trying to get some more information to understand this, about the things to do with documentation and API and what actually was produced or given or existed, to hopefully get some more answers, as well as keeping the campaign going on 38 degrees. So the petition remains open. I'm not going to close it. I'd love it to reach 2 million, 5 million, 10 million. But, you know, thank you again for joining me tonight. And I am going to go to bed now. I'm not sure how much sleep I will get. People keep saying, what are you going to do if somebody people come up to you tomorrow? I don't know. Hopefully be proud. Hopefully it'll be nice comments. But I am going to end the live stream here. Thank you for all your comments. I think I did manage to get to all of them. Lost track with all the congratulations and thank yous, but thank you to you all as well. And I will keep you updated. So stay tuned. Be back tomorrow after some sleep and after some work, and I will make sure this petition is sent off now and give you an update straight away. So thank you very much. Take care, everybody. Look after yourselves. Be kind to each other. Thank you, everyone. Bye for now.